All right, namaste. Thank you for being here. This is All Levels Yoga, and I'm Amber with Living Yoga Collective. So we're gonna focus tonight on releasing tension in the body and the mind. And I would suggest you have a blanket and a couple of blocks if you've got them. They're not required, but they are props I may reference in the practices, ways that you can choose some variations in certain poses. And any blanket honestly will do. That one really would be nice toward the end. I hope to have a little restorative posture. So just like a firm couch blanket or something like that works. And I'd like to start out like we did last week with just 3 chants to Ganesh. This is my Ganesh that's on my meditation altar. You don't have to chant with me, and we're just going to repeat the chant 3 times. Ganesh is the remover of obstacles. So we're working with releasing tension in the mind and body and just focusing on all of the many obstacles that we are facing collectively, right? As a community on a global level, or you can set an intention for your practice and just focus on, some of the obstacles even just our own mind can throw up throughout the day. And so we can work with the energy that each of us has inside, which represents the energy of Ganesh. So it's, I'm loving this dog just jumping up in the screen periodically. So yeah, the distractions in our space will be the first obstacles we'll all work with. But compared to some obstacles that we could be faced, they're kind of welcome, right? The humor is a welcome obstacle. So the chant is Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. And I'll put it up in the chat window if you just are curious and if you want to join in, and we'll just chant it 3 times slowly. So just find a comfortable seat, or you can remain standing. You can remain standing, Kim, if you want, because after this, I'm going to move back to my mat. And just drop the gaze or close the eyes and bring your hands to your heart in prayer. And just kind of bring your attention down into your heart space. Take a couple of deep cleansing breaths. And sometimes those first few breaths, especially at the end of the day, if you need to sigh it out a little bit or part the lips and allow the exhale to come out of the mouth before going into breathing in and out of the nostrils. It can just help to kind of smooth out some of the jaggedy edges and some of that tension that's right there on the surface level as we begin. On the next exhale, we'll begin the first chant. We'll just again repeat it 3 times. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. And you can relax your hands down and just take 5 more natural, full, smooth breaths. Counting backward from 5, so it's easier to keep track. And just begin to focus your mind on the movement and the feel of the breath. And then slowly flutter your eyes open. And I'm going to move back to my mat so we can begin a little bit of movement. So let's go ahead and make our way onto your back. If you can face your head the same direction as me, that's usually helpful for the virtual space. Just plant your feet where they comfortably want to rest with the knees bent, and bring your arms out to a T with the palms up. Gently just spread the fingers and still have them relax down into the floor. And then lift and spread your toes just with a light footprint of effort. Just begin to draw energy in through the fingertips and the toes and the feet. Reconnect to the breath here as we made our way down onto our back. And take 3 of those smooth, full, functional breaths, right? The natural state of the breath, where you're fully filling the lungs and you're completely emptying the lungs. Breathing through the nostrils, feeling as though you're drawing energy in toward the middle of the body from the peripheries. And then as you exhale, imagine that you're sending it back out. And then we'll just float the arms up into space, pointing the fingertips up, and stop when they're in line with the shoulders. You can kind of wiggle the toes and then float one knee up over the hip and then float the second knee up over the hip. And you can just kind of start to bicycle the arms and the legs and rock side to side. So we're just trying to smoothly move the limbs through space, slow pace to start, so that it doesn't feel like any one muscle group is having to do all the work or overexert. It just feels natural, like tapping into the intelligence of the body. And then the rocking side to side on the back is just a way to use compression between the weight of the body and the firm floor beneath you to massage the muscles on the back on either side of the spine. And then the movements can gradually get a little bit bigger and just go in different directions. Really, I like to use this movement too. It creates the momentum I need to be able to easily rock back and forth to get the self massage on the back. Start to feel the muscles in the belly, around the core, in the front and the sides of the body, enlivening and awakening. You just do this little side to side and circling with the limbs. It starts to help you connect to how everything comes back to the core. Everything's connected to the center of the body, and the movement of the arms and the legs and how they play their role in core activation and certain muscles that are at the center of the body. Just kind of pay attention to that. Take one more breath. And then come back to center. Just hug the knees into the body. You can even take them to the outside of the body to deepen hip flexion. Exhale fully. And then inhale, release the knees back forward over the hips. Let the arms straighten some. And then exhale, pull the knees in again. And you can point them again to the outsides of the body if the hips want to flex deeper. Inhale, release them back forward, arms straighten. Exhale, pull the knees in. Imagine you're pressing all the air out a little bit with the pressure of the thighs against the torso and the belly. And then inhale, release them back to center. Exhale, lower one foot at a time, planting them back to the floor. Bring your arms along your sides with your thumbs facing up, and then bend into your elbows at 90 degrees so your fingers fan back up toward the ceiling. It looks like you have robot arms on your back. Press into the elbows. Press into the center point of the shoulder blades down into the mat so it feels like your shoulder blades become 2 little feet at the center point of the shoulder blades. Pressing gently to the mat, and then press through the 4 corners of the feet. Your next inhale, lift the hips just part way. Imagine you're pointing your sits bones halfway up the calf muscles, and then lower the hips back down. And then each subsequent inhale, lifting, go about half an inch higher above on the calf muscles of that first point, and then exhale, lower. And so gradually just get to your highest height in the hips, really being aware that you're pressing through the foundation points just to ground and have a sound foundation. But imagine that your hips can easily float through space and have some buoyancy and lightness to them. And then just repeat a few times, even if you've reached your full range, just go up and down a few more times. And at any point in the cycle, if there's a point where you want to kind of hold and breathe a little bit, you can. We're going to repeat 2 or 3 more times. Everybody's moving at different paces. I encourage you to move slowly so that you're able to move smoothly, but that's still right going to be a little bit different pace for everybody. And mostly I just want you to be able to keep your breath smooth and steady. And then we'll come back to hips down, robot arms, and then fan the arms open. So straight out to the sides and left, right sides, resting the backs of the forearms and hands to the floor. And these kind of like 2 little L's shapes with the arms at the sides of the body. If the elbows aren't touching the sides, it's okay. So if you have to take the elbows farther away from the body to let the forearms and hands relax to the floor, that's fine. Just feel that opening across the chest. Take a couple breaths here. Really focus on the breath coming in through the sides of the chest and the collarbone as you inhale. And then as you exhale, so relaxing back down and in. So just with the massaging of the breath here, we can release some tension in the upper chest and back, where we hold a lot of tension throughout the day. And also, that's a lot of times where we're just doing most of our pattern breathing and shallow breathing through the day. So if you really just exaggerate that breath and bring your awareness there, again, you can just massage that tension away with breath and prana. One more time. Good. And then we will float the knees up again over the hips one at a time and just rock the legs now side to side. Just start by taking the knee just past the hip on each side. Rock side to side, keeping the hands, the back of the hands and the elbows and the forearms in this little 2L shape, firmly planted as a way to anchor yourself, as well as still imagining those 2 little feet in the center point of the shoulder blades, also grounding you as you just rotate from the bottom half side to side. We're going to do a lot of rotations and twists. And we're going to do a lot of different focus in our twists. Sometimes we'll be doing just the upper and kind of focusing on the upper spine, middle and upper. Sometimes it'll be lower, and sometimes it'll be both, right? Or all 3 segments of the spine sort of evenly twisting. One more time to the first side and one more time to the second side. Breathing, just feeling those muscles in the belly. And then just start to do some circles with the knees, like you're painting counterclockwise or clockwise circles on the ceiling a few times. And then whichever direction you were going, switch. So we're still kind of rotating in the lower half of the spine as we circle side to side. You just move slowly. It doesn't feel like you have to strain in your lower back. You're allowing the core muscles to awaken and then come back to center. Lower one foot at a time. And then just pause, kind of let the legs feel as restful as they can. Let the arms and that grounding action through the upper body and shoulders soften. Take a couple breaths. I like to kind of imagine in these moments of active rest that my exhale can just drain tension off of the body. Good. And then we're going to float our legs up again and just kind of start to do that bicycling action with the legs, preparing to rock and roll forward to a seat. And so if you want to take the hands to the backs of the legs and kind of start to slowly come up and build some momentum until you feel like you can roll forward to a seat smoothly. Good. And oh, I forgot to close that chat window. Hope it's not been, it's a little bit to the side, but I hope hasn't been blocking you guys' view. Cool. So we're come forward. Now my head's pointing this way, and we'll use a blanket under our knees to come to hands and knees. Bring the knees and the feet to touch at the midline. And just find a comfortable stance with the hands. Are kind of pawing at the ground one at a time until you feel your wrists, elbows, and shoulders nice and stacked, and you just feel comfortably supported. Now let your hips drop to the right. And then inhale, come back to center. Exhale, let the hips drop to the left. Inhale back to center. And just repeat side to side. When you're ready, you can add the gaze over the opposite shoulder, and that will kind of deepen the side bend on the side that the hips are dropping toward. So exhaling, hips drop left, and gaze goes over the right shoulder. And then inhale, center, and exhale, hips to the right, and the gaze looks over the left. You want to still feel, even when you're gazing over your shoulder and throughout the whole movement, that it should feel like the back of your head still remains in line with your spine. So even though you're looking over the shoulder, you don't want to crank the gaze upward or drop the chin. You're just using more of like your eyeballs, right? And just looking a little bit over the shoulder, kind of like bringing the ear toward the shoulder. One more time to each side. So one more time this first side. One more time to the second side. Come back to center. And then pick up one knee at a time and set it down as you bring your knees under you to a comfortably supportive base for the hips. And if you need to adjust the hands again, pawing at the ground to find a comfortable tabletop base now with the knees apart. And we're going to inhale and float our right arm out to the side at shoulder height. Exhale, start to thread it under to the left part way and just reach, and then inhale, come back up. And maybe you go to shoulder height again, maybe it goes a few inches higher. We're going to move in and out like this 3 or 4 times. So we're really focusing on rotating through the upper back in this one, keeping our hips level. And then rotating open in the upper back, trying to keep the hips level. And on that last one, when you come through and lower the shoulder in the temple, you can sit the hips back a little bit if you need to. And you can change this top hand, the left hand, to plant in front of the face, somewhere overhead or completely extended overhead. Wherever you feel the most supported. Take 3 more breaths here, counting backward from 3. And it's usually a good idea to place the hand in front of the face, that left one, when you press back up to help you rise back to tabletop, hands and knees. Start, and that's a really stable foundation. And we'll do the other side. So it'll be your left arm sweeping out to the side this time. Just go to shoulder height and then thread under to the right, just part way. So when you feel that infeel where the upper back once kind of has that natural stopping point to rotate, and then inhale, open it up again, and exhale, thread under, and maybe you go an inch or 2 past that in each direction with each repetition. So 3 more times before you lower all the way down into the Bhaktasana or devotional twist. And slowly make your way down when you're ready to the shoulder, the temple, and place this right arm where it feels like it can support your posture. If it's overhead,
If it's somewhere in between or even all the way down here, wherever it is, you want to feel like you can draw your shoulder blade down your rib cage right here. It's just a soft, gentle effort. Doesn't need to be forceful. 2 more breaths. And then bring that right hand somewhere in front of the face, plant it, and use it to help you press back up to hands and knees. And then we're gonna just bring our knees close to the screen, the long edge of the mat, and then sit your hips over away from the knees toward the back long edge of your mat so you can turn and come to seated. I'm going to fold my blanket one more time in half to sit on, because, and you might do the same if when you sit on the floor, it feels like you sort of rock backward a little bit, then propping the hips a little bit can help the pelvic bowl come upright a little bit more. So I like to roll it up and then sit kind of on that edge. So I'm going to leave my right leg sort of parallel like this to the long edge of the mat in front of me. And I'm going to pick up my left knee and set it over here to the side. Good. Then I'm going to lean away from it and use this hand to support myself. And then straighten this leg out. Good. And then if you want to take this foot farther from the body or closer into the thigh, it's wherever you feel like, right, you can sit up tall, even though we're kind of leaning away from this leg. Good. I'm going to take my left arm now, which is this one that's on the same side as this extended leg. And I'm just going to windmill it across in front of me and reach it overhead. So I'm starting to put some weight into this hand, this right hand that's over here, kind of to the side and behind my hip a little bit, and still stay out of that shoulder joint by pushing in the hand and staying lifted up tall through the front body. And then I'm just going to come back and kind of sit back upright. Yeah, into like a little starting Janu Shirshasana. And then just repeat that a couple times. So this is to kind of feel more of a twisting, coiling, spiraling action through the front of the body, but you feel it in the back a little bit too. So repeat that a couple more times. And my extended leg foot is kind of sliding forward and back, right? It's not staying fixed because I want to feel a little bit more stretch here through the front. And so I just let that leg slide back. Do that one more time. Good. And we're just going to switch sides. So I'm going to bend into my left knee. I'm going to outstretch the opposite one and bring this foot in. And I'm just going to turn toward that left leg a little bit and plant my left hand sort of next to and behind my hip. Yep. Windmill my right arm across my face and reach. And this foot's going to kind of slide. I'm going to come down on my left thigh and knee a little bit more, and then just come back to upright. So 3 or 4 times at your own pace. So you're leaning over into the left hip, letting the right hip come up a little bit, and that leg will slide forward and back. And just feeling that spiraling action, yep, across the front and back body. One more time. Over to the side and back to center. And then coming back to center. And take the legs straight out in front of you. I'm going to sit back up on my blanket, falling off. And let's take staff pose in between. Take 3 breaths, just stay up nice and tall here. Imagine again that exhale, draining any tension off the body. And we're going to go back to the first side. So I'm going to bend in this left knee out here to the side. It's kind of over here. And then I'm going to bend in this right knee and bring that foot in toward this foot. Good. Now straighten this leg. Good. So I want you to turn toward this bent knee again. And just notice the little bit of twist here. Just turning the upper body and like you're aligning your heart space over that left knee. So if you want, if you have blocks, if you don't, you can just bend the knee and imagine it's a block height under the knee. But if you have a block, and actually put it underneath the knee. That way, when you press the foot, the back of the Achilles tendon and the back of the heel and it kind of acts like a little brake to keep you from hyperextending. But I like to feel like this leg is working. And so you can rotate back over to this bent knee. And I'm going to lean forward into my hands a little bit, just tall spine and hinge at my hip. I'm going to fold over this knee. So you kind of notice as you ground in the left straight leg, back of the heel. And the sit bone might leave the floor a little bit. That's okay. You're grounding in this right side. And you can kind of feel you're twisting, rotating, and then hinging forward at the hip on the right side. Good. And then I want you to come up, right? Still having the heart aligned over that right knee. Then you can lean forward into the hands, and this time kind of use your hands to push and pick up your right hip a little bit and then pull it back. So you turn even a little bit more this way in the hips. Yeah, so I'll try to exaggerate. If I'm like this and I'm gonna lean forward, just push a little bit to lift to pull my hip back. Pull that right hip back. Yep, and over to the right. Or over, actually it's over to the left a little bit. And then we're gonna keep our heart space squared over this knee and just hinge forward over that knee again. And then you can sort of inhale, lengthen up, and exhale, hinge again. So you can sort of move in and out. It can be really big and exaggerated like I'm doing, or it might just be subtle. Just might be a subtle feeling of lengthening with each breath. Like you can feel the millimeters and then exhale deepening, but they might be imperceptible to the outside observer. One more breath. Good. And on an inhale, press into the back of that left heel. Press into your right sit bone and rise back up to center. Good. And we're going to take that block out and just kind of set it to the side. Pick up this left knee, plant that foot again like this, and kind of hook the hand around it. And just pause here. And then pick up your right knee and set that foot down. Bring your left foot in and lower this outside of that. Yeah, I'm going to adjust back to the center of my blanket. I'm going to take this right foot out to the side a little bit, just kind of starting to open up a little bit here in this bent knee before we straighten, and then slowly straighten that leg. Yeah. So turn and just square over that left knee. Just notice how it feels to turn your chest to this left knee. And then if you feel like you want to bend this right knee, or use a block even underneath it, and then try that again. Right, so it's a different side. It may feel very similar, but there might be some differences in the modifications and variations you take. Good. So we're just going to do the hinging forward over this front knee. Very conservative. And again, that right sit bone might release away from the floor. You can ground in the back of the right heel, and then the side of this left knee, thigh, and sit bone. And of course, your hands to support some of the weight of the upper body. Take a couple more breaths. And just feel the upper back rotating to align the heart space over the knee as you hinge forward at the hip. And then come back up
Center, pause. And then we'll see if we can do that little lift in this left sit bone and drawing it back to deepen a little bit. So I lean forward just enough to help me pick up my seat on that left side and bring my sit bone back and over to the right a little bit. So just pulling my hip back, and now that helps me sort of turn more over this bent knee. So I feel less rotation in one area and a little bit more rotation in another. And so you can kind of just, I'm not going to tell you which ones I'm feeling. I just want you to feel which ones you're feeling. And then you can hinge over that knee. And it also just allows me to hinge a little deeper and bring my torso to lay on top of my thigh a little easier. You just can control how deep you're going into both the twisting, right, the spiral, and the hinging forward at the hip. Remember to keep the back of the neck in line with the spine and the shoulders relaxed, so there's no pressure or a feeling of tension in the neck. I want to give that area a break, right? 3 more breaths here. You can still be grounding in the back of that right heel, grounding in the left sit bone and outer thigh and knee. And that supports the posture from below. The inhale lengthening and the exhale deepening. The subtle or the big movements, either one you choose. Good. And then press into the back of the right heel, the outside of the left knee and sit bone. And inhale, rise like you're pushing yourself up from those points and come back to center. Just set this block aside, bend this knee, keeping the foot out to the side again. Just pause right here and see if you can sit up tall. With the knees in this sort of weird position. Good. And then we'll come back to Dandasana. Very nice. Wiggle out the legs if you like. I kind of just like to bend my knees and do this little sort of waving with the legs because it helps me to be sure that I have just a softness in the back of my knees. They don't feel flat and hard toward the floor. And then I feel more energy through the muscles in my quads, more balanced action. And then 2 breaths, sitting up tall. All right, we'll go back to that first side. So bend into this left knee and put the foot out to the side. And then bend into the right knee and bring that foot to the inside of the opposite thigh. Very nice. Straighten this left leg. So this time I'm going to have you actually reach underneath your left sit bone here on the straight leg sit bone and draw it back. So you can see my leg is even sliding back as I pull it back. And then it helps me to square my heart center over the straight leg now. And you have the option to prop the back of the knee or just keep it bent. As you press into the back of the heel and this left sit bone. Good. I'm going to have you take the right hand again and set it somewhere next to and a little bit behind that right hip. And we're going to do that sweeping. Instead of going in front of the body this time, we're just going to bring it right up and over. And I have pretty long arms, so you might need to be somewhere close to the body or here, but I'm going to walk my hand back because I want to lean back a little bit more. And just feel a stretch in the front of the body. Take a couple of breaths. Good. And then I'm going to baby step my back hand closer to me as I rise up. Keep facing my shoulders over that foot. I'm going to use my hands to help me stay tall. Inhale, lengthen, and then exhale, baby step my hands, bring myself into a hinge at the hip, and just bringing my belly onto that thigh. This one's just mostly a forward bend, but you can feel some of the rotation in the spine. One more breath. And then baby step your hands back up to sit tall. And I'm going to turn now and face over my bent knee. So we're going to do it this way.
And I'm going to switch my sits bones now. I want them to kind of go this way. So the bent knee one, I'm going to pick it up and pull it back. Yeah. So we're just taking our sits bones from like side by side to one in front a little bit. And now this right one is behind the left one just slightly. Yep. This left hand is going to rest on the inside of the extended left leg. And then my right arm is going to sweep up. Yeah. And then we're going to laterally forward bend as we rotate and then come up. So let's move in and out a few times before we hold. We're trying to stay rotated and spiraled this way and laterally bend toward the straight leg. So inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, side bending over that straight leg. Yeah. And just find the place that works for you. Then you can hold when you're ready. And you can even kind of look up to the inside of that arm that's floating overhead. Let this arm just be relaxed. Yeah. Sometimes we can get like super rigid to try to pull ourselves. One thing I like to do is use this arm to push into this leg to help me stay rotating open toward my bent knee. And it also helps me push down into it to help me stay tall a little bit. And then I can breathe fully. Feels like I can really let my ribs and everything expand in and out and not be collapsing in my spine. So I can be twisting and laterally flexing and then using the breath to massage from the inside out. Just feel that tension draining. And then press into the back of the left heel to help you rise back up to center and turn to center. Bring that hand down. Just pause here for a minute. Picking up this knee with it out to the side, just sit up tall at the center and kind of release that straight leg there as you pause. And then we switch sides. So we pick up this right knee and out to the side, bring the left foot in. Pause. And then straighten. And again, you can just bend this right knee or prop it with the block. We're going to reach under the right sit bone, the one that's the straight leg, and draw it back. So helps you to square the heart space over that straight leg. Inhale, lengthen, and exhale, baby step the hands forward, hinging at that hip crease, just bringing the belly to the thigh and then using the hands to support. So stay where the spine can be tall because I want you to really, again, using the breath to massage all the soft tissues from the inside of the body. Sometimes if we're too focused on, right, getting our hands to our foot or our head to our knee or things like that, it can restrict our breath. If that's not the case for you, that's fine. I just don't want you to think if that's something you have to force yourself into that's the goal. We all want to find the pose where we can breathe. And then baby step the hands back up to center and turn and just face over this knee a little bit. And again, now pick up the left sit bone, the one that's on the bent knee side, and bring it back to help you turn and square up over the knee a little better. Yeah. Start by bringing the hand behind that hip and just reaching the right hand up and back. And we're going to lean away first. Yeah, so we're kind of twisting this way and leaning back first. And just find your hand placement behind you that works best. Couple more deep breaths. And then press into the back of the heel and the hand to come up. And then adjust again in the sit bone if you need to, a little bit, pulling that left sit bone back some more. And then with this time, we're just going to let the right hand relax on the inside of the right leg. Float the left arm up. Inhale to lengthen and exhale, side bend over to your right. Still, again, trying to stay open with the heart space toward that bent knee. And we'll inhale, rise. And so the first range, it might be really just small as you're trying to figure out, right, how to laterally flex. And we're really rotating the rib cage because we're focusing on, remember, rotation and twists. those spiral lines to release tension. A couple more times till you feel like you've found your pose where you can breathe in as you hold and you're able to use the breath and the prana to massage away tension. Keeping the shoulders relaxed away from the ears. And the gaze might go up a little bit. Mine's kind of midline at my forearm and passed it up to toward the ceiling. On your next inhale, press into the back of the right heel, rise up and turn back to center. Let the arms come down. Bend in this right knee, planting the foot out to the side, and just pause and see if you can sit up tall here. Very nice. Take the legs out in front. How'd that feel? Maybe challenging at times as we kind of progress it for you and take Dandasana for a couple of breaths. But just check in. See how your Dandasana feels. If it feels like you can sit up taller with a little bit more ease. If we were able to unwind some of those deep core muscles, sometimes it can feel like they just don't fire because there's so much tension in there. And then bring your soles of your feet together to Baddha Konasana, just where it's comfortable. I'm going to scoot back a little bit because I like to have the mat underneath my heels because my floor is slippery. I'll slide out. So you might try that too if you're on hardwood, to keep your feet on your mat so they don't slide. You can keep them and just rock side to side. Rock side to side till it feels like you're sort of wiggling toward the front of your sits bones. And then we'll inhale, sweep the arms up. And we'll exhale, bring them down to a T and hinge forward at the hips. So you feel natural infeel, and then sweep the arms in front of you like you're scooping all that energy, and then bring it back into the heart space and sit up tall. And we'll repeat. Inhale up. Exhale through cactus and hinge at the hips and scoop it all out in front of you and bring it back into the heart space. So now just try to smooth that whole sequence out and just let the breath flow. Do it about 2 or 3 more times on your own. Make it feel like one continuous movement with the breath. Last one. And we'll hold. Just lower your hands down wherever they land. And then I'm going to wrap them around to the pinky sides of, I'm going to interlace my fingers and wrap them underneath the pinky toe sides of my feet. And that way I can push the pinky sides of my feet into my hands and my hands into my feet and draw my heart space up and forward and relax my groin and knees. Yeah. Try to keep a tall spine and let that pelvic bowl incrementally with each exhale and breath tip forward, right? It can just feel like minutia when you get to your natural sort of endpoint in the body. And if you can keep your shoulders relaxed out of your ears, it can be a nice experience to bring the chin toward the chest and bow the head down toward the heart space. And sometimes it lets your pelvic bowl pour forward a little bit more. If you can keep the muscles around the groin, the hip flexors, and the knees relaxed as you ground the sits bones down and back. Again, muscles at the tops of the shoulders and the base of the neck are soft. And the breath should be full, smooth, steady, and even. How many more breaths? Let's say 4, count backward from 4. And then when you come up, I want you to feel like you're zipping up some really tall zipper jeans up through the front of the body. So it's kind of like lengthening through the front body to rise up slowly. Yeah, so that you support the lower back as you come out. And now just rest your hands somewhere on the thighs, or if you still need them here to help you sit up a little bit tall, but see if you can relax the groin and the knees and stay tall in the spine and grounded in the sits bones, if that feels a little easier to keep the pelvic bowl level. Take 2 more breaths here. It feels like a victory for me, even if I can sit in Baddha Konasana and like my spine isn't straining or hurting somewhere to try to keep me upright, and I can just sit upright, right? That feels like a huge victory for me. And my hip flexors aren't screaming. We all have our little things. Let's take the legs out wide, one at a time. And they don't have to be extremely wide, just be just outside the hips. So you can do just bend your knees, and if sometimes just bending your knees helps you feel like your pelvic bowl can tip forward just right away, or use a block under each knee like we did for the Janu Shirshasana series, and toes pointing up. And we're going to repeat that, reaching up as you breathe in, around to cactus and forward. And then pull that energy back into your heart space, sitting upright. Just repeat 2 more times. Nice and smooth, forward and back, trying to keep long spine and focus on your pelvic bowl, tipping forward and back. Pouring forward and back, and then you can pause. When your hands come down here, use them for support. Again, to help you push into the fingertips to draw the heart space forward and up. Each exhale, you might feel the pelvic bowl tipping forward a little bit more. And then if the shoulders can remain relaxed, you can tuck the chin down toward the chest, bowing the head down toward the heart space. And even as the pelvic bowl is tipping forward, you're pressing into the backs of the heels. I still want you to imagine that you have that sort of zipping up feeling from the pubic bone through the navel space and up toward the breastbone. So there's still sort of that feeling of, it's not sucking in, just imagine that you're kind of zipping up a pair of jeans as you breathe. As you inhale, that's a good reminder to sort of lengthen there. And just let those muscles sort of act like a little corset wrapping around you, not sucking in, just wrapping to support you when you exhale, and maybe hinge forward a little deeper. One more breath. Fully release the exhale. And then inhale, press into the backs of the heels and feel that zipping up action through the front of the body to rise up. And just sit tall again for a couple of breaths, hands relaxed or resting wherever it's comfortable or supportive. And we'll release these blocks. Turn toward hands and knees. Grab your blanket for our restorative posture. So if you have it in this shape, kind of that small rectangle shape to begin with, and then you roll short edge to short edge. So it's going to kind of come into a shorter and thicker roll. Like this. Like that. Get it in where the contrast of the color is helpful.
And then we're gonna lay our hips over this on our belly for crocodile breath before Shavasana. So you want it right across the hip bones in the front. So it's not pressing into the abdominal or bladder or anything like that. And then stack the hands underneath the forehead overhead so that it gives space for your nose not to be smashed into the mat. So crocodile breath, you can really feel the expansion of the ribs and the belly against the floor. And then you can feel it relaxing back in, sort of melting. We'll do 4 more breaths here. Count backward from 4. Really let your breath imagine that you can even breathe and expand down even into the lower spine and the kidney space. Like you're massaging the whole spine with the breath. Last one. And then if you just come up onto the elbows and forearms momentarily, just sort of roll open to one side to pull that blanket out. Return back down to the belly and bend the knees and take them a little bit outside the hips. Flex in the feet and just go side to side with the feet and reverse wipe our knees a few times. Now you can really feel the massaging again against the abdominal cavity and the lower ribs, the solar plexus. If you really rock side to side here, you can feel that massaging against the floor. And then bring the feet back up to center, lower and straighten the legs. You can kind of walk the legs back in little baby steps, picking up the knees and bringing them in to where so the legs are in line with the hips. Slide your hands back next to your shoulders. Press up through table and back to child's pose for 3 breaths. Whatever your child's pose looks like, just sitting really mostly back in the hips all the way to the heels or just part way back. And then lowering the upper body. The forehead release to the mat. Feel that gentle pressure. Breathe into, again, like imagine the breath even sends all the way down in that expansion to the kidney space, right? Not just the ribs, but feel the whole back. Expanding and opening with the inhale, the sides and the front, and then exhale. Feel it releasing back down and into the midline. Feel space lengthwise through the vertebrae. And when you're ready, just turn back over onto your back for your Shavasana corpse pose. Get whatever props you need, and I'll come sit and keep track of the time like always, so that you can close your eyes or even put something over the eyes. And just come back to the breath. Feel the subtle movement in and out. Let the face and the jaw and everything relax. Imagine like your face just becomes completely smooth, like the face of a baby. And the back of the neck softens. Soften through the throat space, feeling as though it's nice and open, round. Like there's an AH sound on the breaths. Feel the breath massaging the body now on a deeper, more subtle level. Tap into the body's infinite and innate wisdom to release tension, to invoke inside of yourself that ability to release tension, to overcome obstacles with ease and with grace. Gradually begin to deepen your in-breath and let it out long and slow. And start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Move slowly as you gently reawaken the body. And try to connect to the fresh vital energy re-entering the body, reverberating into every cell. And then roll to your right side. Give yourself a couple moments in this side lying fetal hug as a way to acknowledge the transitions between Many death and rebirth cycles that are constantly happening inside and around us. And as you're ready, you can press up to a comfortable seat. If you'd like, you can join me by bringing your hands to your heart in prayer, letting your thumbs even touch at the center of the chest. Cultivate a feeling of gratitude in your heart space. I'd like to thank you all for being here this evening, for your willingness to partake in practices like this, to slow down, to breathe, to honor yourself and the wisdom within. And we'll end the class with the chant of Om, 3 Shantis, and an Om if you'd like to join in. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Thank you.